knobs everywhere. Welcome, Mike, director, writer, and actor Mike Doyle of the film Sell By to the show. Everybody say hi to Mike. Mike, say hello to everybody.
Hey, everybody.
All right. Mike, your film Sell By is, well, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about it, because I don't think I can do it justice. It's a head film.
Well, Sell By is a romantic comedy about a group of friends sort of spinning their wheels in relationships as they navigate love, life, and friendship, sort of staring the midpoint down the barrel. It explores, it's an ensemble piece that explores sort of without sounding too academic about it, the universality of the challenges of being in a relationship with another human being who has a pulse. So yeah, that's what we set out to do.
I think that you explained that really well. The universality of being in a relationship. That's a good way to put that. And though academic, I think it's very pointed. I am notorious online for being a humongous fan of romantic comedies, and with this one, I found the relationships, especially the chemistry between Adam and Marklin, to be quite authentic, as it were. All the relationships seemed like authentic relationships, and I think that came down to your writing. What went into the process of creating these very real, very three-dimensional characters?
Well, that's nice to hear. How did I create real three-dimensional characters? I think part of, I'm not an actor in this. I'm just the writer and director in the film. But I think my experience as an actor, having been in a lot of other people's work, having read a lot of, really great character writing, I think some of it sort of just by osmosis seeped into the way I see relationships and how I draw relationships. I think, what's important to me is not to always spoon feed the audience something that we can see through behavior or we can see visually. So, there are some dots that don't connect necessarily ostensibly when you see it, but to me it mirrors more closely to life, because you do have these gaps, you do have these pauses, you do have these things that happen off the line, off the page. And so as I was writing it, I was picturing the best performance of it as well, knowing that a really great actor, and I was really blessed all around with everyone who came to the table, and particularly with Scott Evans and Augustus Prew. They have just as actors, they're very grounded in their work, and they trust what they do. And I, as their director, I encourage them to trust it more because I trusted them as well. So to your question about creating grounded characters like that, I think it's many elements coming together. The writing being one of them, but certainly the casting, the performance, and the directing of it as well.
I think that your character, Cammy, she absolutely steals the show in every scene she's in.
Yes, Michelle she was just called by someone in the film. They were talking about her performance in it, and they called her a national treasure. And she and I have been texting back and forth today about the fact that now she can add to her multi-hyphenate that she is a national treasure. Michelle is fantastic. And, it's funny because Michelle, I knew a little bit about her work before we met. And our casting director, Henry Russell Bergstein, was like, "You've got to meet this woman. She's doing a lot of great stuff. She's very funny, but there's also, I think, something else there." And the two of us met in Brooklyn for coffee. And we both had our witty repartee, and those meetings where you're meeting someone, it's like speed dating. It's the weirdest thing because it's like, I've got the job. Do you want the job? He's got the job. Does he want me to have the job? All sorts of things. And then the two of us I was just like, you know what? I was like, let's not talk about the movie. I was like, let's just talk about other stuff. So we ended up talking about our families, and we both have a sort of similar, I mean, everybody has, dysfunction in their family, but some of our familial dysfunction lined up in a way that the two of us just had a coffee and we were like, we got in it and deep. And it was, I was like, this is a soulful, beautiful person that I want to see more of and work with. And of course, comedy is just like, she's genius. So so Cammie and I, after we sort of sussed Michelle and I, after we sort of sussed each other out, I was like, let's just stop talking about the movie and let's talk about other stuff. And we started talking about our families and how we both have some crazy stuff in each of our respective families, and we ended up just having this very dropped-in, deep conversation. And I was like, this is a beautiful person that I really want to work with because she's got a lot going on underneath all of the funny.
I like that you're saying that when you were having this conversation, it was almost like a catharsis for you guys, and that you guys, kind of bonded over basically something that we all kind of deal with, and that's family. And I think that's pretty cool. And I think that your relationship with her and with your cast in general kind of comes out in the way that the film was put together, and then that the way that everybody kind of feels like they're actually friends. And I think in a film like this, it is such an ensemble. It's important for them to kind of like each other a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I was very lucky because you do your best to cast the film well, and not only for the roles, but you want to make sure that the ensemble is cohesive. But sometimes, there, not everybody gets along, and everybody got along in such a way that that was really, it worked well for the film and that friend circle. And I think it worked so well that, people have said that watching the film, they feel like they're part of the friend circle, which is pretty great. So
now, this is your feature debut, isn't it? You had a couple shorts beforehand, but this is your feature debut, yeah?
Yeah, this is my feature debut. I wrote and directed a short called Shiner, which premiered a few years ago at Tribeca and got some attention, and then some smaller projects, but yeah, this is my feature debut, which is really exciting.
It should be, and it's a great debut. I think that you did a great job of telling a very, very old story in a very, very new way, and with your own kind of voice. And that's something that's really difficult now in 2019 to do, is tell a story that's been told a million times, but do it a different way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was trying to, in terms of it being a gay film, I wanted to make a film that was I think there have been beautiful films made about coming out, about battling adversity, and I wanted to make a film where all of that already happened, and it was presupposed in the setup, and that it was just about being in a relationship, and as I said earlier in the conversation, about how universal not only the challenges, but like the great things about being in a relationship are, and the hope that we all have when we enter into a partnership with someone, that it's going to work out. And so I'm really pleased to hear you say that, that it feels like a nice new take on it.
Yeah, and I think that the great thing is, and you mentioned making good gay films, it's a great romantic comedy, irregardless of what the couple is. They could be a completely straight couple, and that story still works. And I think that's the best of when you can make a film about characters who are gay, is when the story works regardless of the fact that they are. And still, it's not so much the focus of them being gay as it is a focus of them being in a loving relationship with one another and having to deal with these hurdles. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah,
I do. Think you did that.
Very much so.
No, I kind of
Right.
want to switch gears a little bit and talk about you. And
Yeah.
you have a background in acting, and who are some actors and even some directors that you look at as inspirations?
I've been talking about when I worked on Jersey Boys that Clint Eastwood directed. One of the great actor directors. He's worked with like the same people for the last 35, 40 years, and so it's this well-oiled machine. And he chooses his tools very wisely, and he casts very meticulously, but also with a huge amount of trust. So when you're working with him, you feel emboldened to take risks because you feel like, oh, even if I fuck this up and I fail, that it's all safe and it's all good and that there's someone at the top who's protecting me. And so I think, I'm sort of like the whack-a-mole of actors. I pop up everywhere. Everyone's like, wait, you're that guy from that show. But what it's afforded me is that, I've worked on a lot of sets with a lot of different directors. And I find that, a director who, has a clear sense of purpose, clear vision, and who's a great leader, they're the directors who get the best performances, the best results. As an actor, I guess Gary Oldman has always been a real inspiration to me in that he's a true transformer, in that he's spectacularly chameleon-like and a huge inspiration.
I think that's an answer I've heard before, and it's the same reason, and it's a great answer because he's a fantastic actor, and you're completely right. Now, I just have two more things I'm going to bring up before we let you go, and thank you for your time, by the way. This one question here that I always ask everybody that gives us the pleasure of their time. It's a really fun question, but I think it's probably the hardest one I ask. Let's say you're stranded on a desert island, you can only take two that you have to watch for the duration of your life. What two are you taking and why?
I got it. And it's appropriate for a desert island because one of them would be Lifeboat, and the second one would be Tootsie. Lifeboat I'm bringing because it is about an ensemble of people who the stakes are off the charts and they are stuck having to deal with one another, and they have to make things work in a similar way. I think some of the greatest movies. I mean, and I referenced Lifeboat when I made my short, when Tallulah Bankhead uses her bracelet to catch some fish. I use a jewel in my short, but it is I think in Sell By, it's a group of people who are trying to make something work. Tootsie, I watch probably once every 6 months because I think Sidney Pollack is also, who was briefly an actor, but acted, in his early years and certainly throughout his later years. An amazing director. It's an amazing performance by Dustin Hoffman. It's so well crafted and so well constructed that every time I see it, I see something new. And I would be a happy person on that island as long as I had sunscreen and I had Lifeboat and Tootsie. I'd be fine.
Those are great answers, and I really like those. So the last question I have is actually one that you can answer for the audience, and that's why is Sell By something that they should check out, and why is that a film that you think would interest other people, or is something that they should spend maybe an hour and a half of their day with?
I think Sell By, as we've been talking, speaks about some universal themes about love, about life, about relationships, about the challenges, but also the absurdity of it all. And that despite how hard things can be within a relationship or within a friendship, that there's a lot of stuff that keeps things funny and keeps you. It allows you to navigate and survive perhaps some of the tougher moments in life. I think Sell By has a lot of good laughs, and it's a friend circle that, as I was saying before, that hopefully the viewer will feel like they're one of the friends.
I think that you nailed that. I think that your characters are so normal that that you could see yourself as one of the people in that group, and that's a testament to the writing, that's a testament to the acting, and that's good stuff, and that's something that I kind of picked up on as I was watching the film. If people want to get in touch with you regarding the film or want to say hi to you, where can they find you on social media?
I am at it's sellbymovie.com, and then at the Mike Doyle on Twitter and Instagram, and at sellbymovie on Twitter and Instagram. And I welcome whenever I get a note from somebody. It's always it's really nice to hear from people.
Well, awesome. Be on the lookout for our review, which we're going to package with this awesome interview that you've given us time for today. Everybody, the director of Sell By, Mike Doyle. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.